Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Uncorked with Funny Wine Girl. This is Funny Wine Girl, Janine Luby. And wow, we're already moving along in May. I was just saying to a friend the other day, we were both saying that like the months seem to really be rolling along. Although today, when I'm recording this, May seemed more like the end of February, beginning of March. It was crazy out there. It was cold. We had a hailstorm, but then the sun came out. So how positive is that? So this week, I'm introducing you to something that I'm being introduced to because I'm not super familiar with it either. So we're going to get into somatic embodiment and a workshop that is coming up locally in Northeastern Pennsylvania in June for women that you can enjoy. But I want you to tune in, learn something new. And if it sounds interesting and curious to you, which I think you will definitely be piqued, your curiosity will be piqued, then hopefully you'll go check it out. So my guests today, I always talk every week, and I know I'm like a broken record. I like to say how I know my guests because I just find it is so important that we are connected. No matter how that is, if you meet somebody through somebody else at the grocery store, if you're at a yoga class, if you're at a business mixer, just meet people, be open to it, keep their business cards. You never know how you're going to be able to help one another out. And honestly, we do need to do that more. We need to lift one another up. So Kristen, I actually know, and Trish, I did not know until tonight. We met virtually, but Kristen Martelli has been someone who's been very supportive of what I do in laughter yoga. She has come out to events I've held throughout the years. The first Sunday in May is World Laughter Day. Kristen has been great. She's been supportive. She's been out there doing the laughter yoga. I actually recently just did a laughter yoga session, a very intimate one. It was super intimate. I think it was Kristen, myself, and one other woman who, by the way, I'm thrilled to know that her blood glucose went down after we laughed, that she shared with us, which is awesome. But Kristen had me at her business in Clark Summit. It's called Grow Greenridge Om and Wellness. She does medical massage and much more. So let me introduce you to Kristen Martelli. Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having both of us and doing this. This is awesome. I've never been on a podcast before and I'm a little nervous, but
I love you were telling me that before. And I'm like, I've never had anyone as excited slash nervous. I'm like, no, it's not really a big deal. She's like, no, it is. I'm like, well, so I'm glad you said that it is. But Kristen, we've known each other a while. I know your business has moved to a couple different locations. Now you are up in Clark Summit, but tell us, I mean, just because it's moved, you've pretty much kept the heart and soul of what it is that you do. Tell us about what you do.
well, the heart of my business is medical massage. I do clinical massage for chronic pain. I my one of the massages I do, I mean, I basically call it integrative therapeutic work because I integrate different things. And really when you get to the heart of it, medical massage, really you have to know various modalities so that you know how to treat each layer of the tissue in order to release it layer by layer. So you do have to integrate various modalities when you do that. So yeah, I do medical massage, chronic pain, relaxation, stress relief, and most recently trauma work. So
Now, you also, I mean, I don't know if you still do this, but you used to do some work with children as well. Do you still do that?
I do. So, mostly kids with special needs, like disabilities. So, I have children who have special needs. So, that was actually how I had gotten started with massage 20 years ago, working with my son on the spectrum. So, I work with kids, with various disabilities, and I also work with kids with sports injuries because I'm with them, medical massage that kind of goes hand in hand, so injuries, chronic pain, recovery.
Yeah, and that's so important now. I think it's great to have alternatives to prescriptions. That's we don't want to go off topic tonight, but with injuries, that tends to happen with different prescriptions. So it's so nice to use something that's a different way to heal, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're very receptive. I know when I work with children on the spectrum, one of the greatest things I love to do is to actually educate the parents on how to do it at home. 3 to 5 sessions. I'm usually able to give them enough information to work with their children at home because massage, like the long-term benefits, you need to be consistent with it. So that's something that I like to do. So, you know, constipation, things like that. Kids with special needs usually suffer from a lot of things that are easily remedied with massage therapy. So,
And I'm sure that's such a relief. I'm sure you've heard through the years for the parents that they can actually learn something they can do themselves.
so grateful. Yeah, they're always there with me. When we work on with the child, one on one, and then my last session or two, it's handing it over to the parent. So
Very
yeah.
nice. Well, let me introduce our other guest tonight, who actually Kristen introduced me to because I had not met Trish before tonight. Trish, here I'm going to say the name, Dickert Nieves. Okay. Whoo, I practice it. All right. So Trish is a practitioner, a holistic practitioner at Inner Harmony Wellness. And that is a name I know I've known for a while. It's been in Northeastern Pennsylvania for a long time, Inner Harmony. Welcome, Trish. Tell us a little bit about what you do at Inner Harmony and whatever you'd like to share about your own background with this.
Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, this is amazing to get to do this with Kristen as well. And I have to say, how I met Kristen was she began as my massage therapist. So I went to see her as, a practitioner and client relationship, and then we kind of hit it off. And so it's really beautiful that, we're coming full circle now and learning alongside one another, and then bringing something like somatic embodiment to our community. So this is a really beautiful kind of culmination, I think, of our relationship. So it's really amazing to be here. Yeah. So I myself am on a healing journey. I received a diagnosis of multiple sclerosis in 2005. So that kind of led me on a healing journey, and that led me into the world of holistic medicine, and learned about the benefits of massage. And that's what led me to find Kristen in our community. But I've been a holistic practitioner myself at Inner Harmony Wellness Center for the past 3 years. And I help guide women who are struggling with hormonal issues, digestive issues, you name it, brain fog, autoimmune. So help to support the stress in their body, how it affects their energy and their organs and glands, do holistic detoxing, and support their overall well-being. So that's been my practice. I also do some life coaching and health coaching as well. I'm an integrative nutrition guide and coach and therapist, and now studying alongside Kristen in informed and integrative trauma therapy, including somatic embodiment and somatic movement. So yeah, so I'm really excited to be bringing this work to the community, because I think it's new for the community. It's new nationwide, really, where everybody's talking about trauma informed. So in my work as a holistic practitioner, we're always looking at the root cause. Like, why is somebody having these symptoms? Why am I having brain fog? Why am I having digestive issues? What's really going on? Is it environmental toxicity that we're looking at? Is it, because our food source obviously isn't the cleanest and greenest. So it's really hard to get the nutrition that we need.
I would just, oh, I'm sorry. Are you done? I'm so sorry.
Now, go
I
ahead,
get so
Kristen.
excited. I get so excited. I would like to add too, yes, a healing. I think if you have your own personal healing journey, it just makes it so much more relatable. And I think you get so much more excited about bringing it to your community because you actually got to experience it for yourself. In 1994, I suffered a really bad trauma. My dad died by suicide in 1994, right before I went to Montserrat College of Art. So I had left Montserrat College of Art and joined a conscious community. And there was a lot of dancing, and I was wondering how, everyone was wondering, like, how are you making it through? They thought I was just like going in denial, but I was really actually really processing through this whole experience. Met a lot of shamans along the way. And then when I came home and went back to school, first for art education, then massage, then art therapy, throughout the educational journey, I started learning about the mechanisms of action as to why that worked so well for me. And throughout those years, like learning about Ida Rolf in massage school, her tagline is "the issues are in our tissues." Trauma gets stored inside of the body. And even if you mentally process it out, it can physically stay in your body. So you sometimes have no idea why that you're feeling this way, even though you think you've gone past it. So, later on learning about Pat Ogden and the Sensory Motor Psychotherapy Institute, just really was enamored by this. And I wanted so badly to dive academically into this and bring it to my community. And there just wasn't a place locally, having kids, like I didn't want to leave them and go to California to some of these schools that offered this. And during the pandemic, things started going online. I was taking some free classes. Nothing really hit home. Trish texted me the one day. She's like, "Hey, check out this class. Are you in?" I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm so in." And here we are.
Well, that's, before I go to the next question, I want you to tell me more about that. One, I want to thank you, Kristen, for sharing what you shared, very personal. And Trish, I want to say I need to talk to you later because I'm 51. Perimenopausal hormones are wreaking havoc with me and I'm not doing a damn thing about it. I know I should be. And I mean, I want to be, not should, I want to be, because it's not pleasant many days. But along the lines of what you said, Kristen, about working through with, the dance and the movement, I think it's so true that, like, even today I was in a crappy mood, and I always find that when I go out for a run or a walk, especially outdoors, because I'm an outdoors person, I don't want to be on a treadmill, it never disappoints me. It always makes me feel better. So the movement is so important, and especially being outdoors, it's so important, excuse me. But let's talk about, and I don't know, Kristen or Trish, whichever one of you want to pick up there, tell us a little bit about the class you're both taking, and you're learning about trauma-informed therapy and somatic embodiment. And tell us, so again, for those folks who maybe would never even go anywhere near that word, what that means, really, what that means and what it could mean for them as far as helping them.
Do you want to take it, or should I?
No, so I really do. I have to say that Chris and I are really a great co-facilitators and partners, because Kristen really is based in like clinical studies and the facts and the science of it all. And I'm more a little bit, I'd say I'm more about, really about expression and more about like, in the flow and heart centered. And so I didn't prepare for this at all tonight. Like, that's how I show up. I am like in the moment, whatever is like comes off of my heart. That's kind of how I speak. And that's where Kristen and I are such great partners, because we are such a great balance. And that's what people need, I think, is they need some space to kind of get a little, wild and crazy and fun and explore and be curious, but they also need to know why this is working and why this is happening. So I really would like to allow Kristen to give us the kind of straightforward facts about what somatic embodiment is, why it's important, So Kristen, really, please take the lead on that.
That's so funny, because I literally just said to somebody today that we make such a great team, because I have all the facts, but you're able to give it to make it more accessible to people, because sometimes I'm like talking up here and people are like, what are you saying? So I'll try to answer the question. Soma actually just translates to body. So in a somatic practice, you're focusing on body awareness. Embodiment practices fall under the umbrella of somatic psychology. So when I was in school, this is where I started to learn some about, the somatic psychology work. Somatic psychology assumes that events impact our physical, emotional, cognitive, and spiritual being as a whole. So we kind of know that, at this point, but that was revolutionary 20 years ago, 30 years ago. So somatic embodiment strives to create an effect where the body in a sensory motor state, like Trish was explaining, just showing up heart-centered, plays an instrumental role in information processing. So in other words, the process or being of connection between self and body. So that's kind of what somatic embodiment means, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. So what will that mean? And maybe Trish, I don't know, Trish or Kristen, you want to pick up there. So what would that mean for someone? I know you have a workshop planned. So for someone to practice this, what does that really mean? Or for you to lead them in a practice, so to speak, what does that mean? Or what does that look like?
Yeah. So first, I think with somatic embodiment, we want to get into our bodies. And a lot of people are not physically into their body. Like, they're thinking about their to-do list. They're thinking about, so where is their consciousness? They're thinking about tomorrow. What am I going to do in the next day, and making ends meet? And, they're being pulled in 50 different ways. And so being really in the present moment and acknowledging your physical body. I hear it from women all the time. They'll say like, I go, 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 go. And then I come home and I'm exhausted. I'm starving. I realized I didn't eat all day. I have a headache. It's like, you're just noticing it now. It's not that those things are showing up in this moment. You could have been, you could have had these sensations all day long, but you were distracted with work and the things that you need to do and pushing yourself. So I think when we're talking about embodiment, in somatic embodiment is really getting into the present moment and being mindful about how your body feels in this moment. So what that would mean is that we're going to be doing some grounding techniques. So people are going to be learning about how to ground themselves, how to get their consciousness attuned and into their body and connected to their heart. So there's going to be a lot of different modalities that we're going to be using in somatic embodiment. We're going to be doing some breath work in order to ground ourselves and get connected to our heart and into our body. There's going to be some visualization. Sometimes for some people that works, imagine yourself, close your eyes, take a few deep breaths and imagine yourself walking in a beautiful field of flowers, right? So like that gets people into a certain kind of state. So we'll be doing some visualization. Hands on our body. For some people that feels good. So a lot of this is exploring and being curious about what feels good for you and your body. Maybe your hands on your heart or your hands on your chest doesn't feel good for you, but for me, that feels really good. So I'm going to do that. So it's really tuning into what works for you in this moment in time. And that might change at the end of the 4-week series. But right now, this is kind of where we're starting. And then just being aware of your physical body without any judgment. If you've got a headache, not wondering how to get rid of it or what's going on. It's just like, oh, that's there. Okay. Noticing it. Let's move on. Thinking about how our stomach feels, how our chest feels, how our back feels, what's happening there. And then we'll kind of get a sense of, kind of a baseline of how we're feeling in this moment. So then when we start doing some movements, and they might be micro movements or macro movements, which Kristen gets into a little bit more with the guided movement. But once we start moving, we really are looking to, like, the whole point of this is we're really looking for the body to take the lead. So we're kind of getting out of our minds and like letting loose, I guess, in a sense where our ego is not dictating how we're going to move or how we're going to dance. It's like we're really feeling even the music, like you're really going to be feeling the music in your body versus thinking about how I want to dance to this or how I think I should be moving to this, and allowing the body to kind of take the lead. And so that's where the 4-week series allows us to lead people into that space where they feel comfortable, they feel safe, they feel connected. So Kristen, do you have anything to add?
That was absolutely beautiful. You're so wonderful with words. No, I think that you've hit every nail on the head. Body scan, that's, the first thing we'll be doing after some breath work and some visualization. I'll use some evidence-based tools like vagal breaks, that was developed.
Okay, you didn't just say bagel breaks, did you?
Bagel.
I heard bagel. That's because I'm a carb girl. No.
That is amazing. That's awesome.
I'm sorry.
No, the vagus nerve is what helps our parasympathetic nervous system, and we get into that state of rest and digest, and that's what, when your body starts to be able to allow yourself to process things. People that get overwhelmed and are in trauma, they come into a disassociative state because the sensation, the feelings are too much to bear. So they're constantly thrown into fight or flight. And then Trish and I've had these discussions that, chronic pain and being in fight or flight and being disassociated from your body is what is actually the root of a lot of chronic illness, because your vagus nerve, like everything is so dysregulated. So this is going to allow you to start to exercise your vagus nerve so that you can access parasympathetic very regularly on your own. So these are tools that you can learn on your own to do at home. And once you do vagal things like vagal breaks and like the little tools that we give you, it's much easier to get into that state of embodiment because you're not in fight or flight. And then once you're there, I loved how Trish said, we're going to feel the sensations. Once you're safely in your body and you're tuned in and you're in that state where you have, that you're able to do that, that's when you start scanning. It's like, okay, where is it coming from? Why is it here? Let's have a conversation with it. How can we help it? Should we thank it? Is it time to let go? These are the things that we do, and then we do that with the visualization, the micro and the macro movements, and so on and so forth. But she said it beautiful.
Now, this is, I mean, I'm sure it can help anyone, but is this primarily focused your workshop toward women? Is that right? Or open to
Mostly.
women? Mostly. Okay. I mean, and I'm sure, we can benefit the same, but at the same time, there is a difference, obviously, between the different health experiences that men have versus what women have. So what would you say, and either one of you who wants to address this, for some people listening, who don't really believe in holistic stuff, or else they're skeptical, what would you say to those folks who are like, okay, here's another thing, or they think it's hippy dippy or whatever, which to me, it sounds scientific. So, but sometimes people get a little bit of afraid when they don't know, it sounds brand new. So of course that means scary. What do you tell people to get them to kind of like, just give it a shot, be curious?
Well,
I
for
don't
me,
really have. Oh, go
yeah.
ahead. You.
Well, I was going to say, for me, there's two things. I think that it's fun, like showing up, at least for me, I think showing up in a room full of women where there's no judgment and you could just be free, you could be completely authentic, and you can show up however you want to. There might be a room full of strangers where you're just like, I don't care what any of you think about me, and then just moving and dancing and laughing. It's just really joyful, like to be able to have that sense of freedom where I have no responsibilities. I don't have to be anywhere or do anything other than this in this moment. There's gonna be music, and it's just a really supportive community, which is the other thing. So it's fun and joyful, but it's also community. It's like people who are supportive energetically, but also like showing up together for these 4 weeks. You build a sense of community, and with that comes trust. And like you were saying in the beginning of the podcast, like it's important to put yourself out there and network, and you never know where that's going to take you. Like it could be life-changing. You find people along the way that really could rocket your life, into another direction that you never were expecting. So it really is like magical in that sense, where you just show up for the joy of it, and you find community, and like it could be life-changing.
Yeah. And I love that fact that, like, that's why I say every week how I know people, because I'm just really proud of and happy to have such a tapestry of different people that, like, when you allow yourself to be open, like you said, and go places and just connect and be curious and learn from people and then share what I think it's just so important to be supportive and to connect. Kristen, is there anything you wanted to add about that? Like what you would tell someone to encourage them to, if not even come to the workshop, but just to even get started learning this, or learning a little bit more, or being more open to it?
So, yeah, in my circle, I don't really have a lot of people being extremely resistant to it. I think they know me and they know my work and they know my background more extensively than I've even shared here. But if I was to meet somebody that thought, like that I was just like, talking about hugging trees or whatever, I would probably tell them to start looking into things like Dr. Kolk, How the Body Keeps the Score, Dr. Pat Ogden, Ida Rolf, Janine Fisher, Dr. Porges. He does amazing, research on the vagus nerve and how you could integrate that into. Am I forgetting any other names?
There's Peter Levine and Bruce Lipton. I mean, there's if you were to search, trauma informed work, there's so many experts now that are really on the forefront of this work and bringing it to the mainstream. But really one of the other things too is like just recognizing how you feel in your life. I think that if you're overwhelmed and burnt out, especially with the last 3 years that everyone's experienced, it's like, who isn't overwhelmed and burnt out and just exhausted and trying to play catch up and stuck in going through the motions and lacking joy and lacking motivation? I mean, there's so much that has happened that we're all really tapped out. And so what we're doing currently, and that might not be holistic. So what you're doing currently is not getting you the place you want to be. And so if you're feeling stuck, and like you're on a hamster wheel, trying something new and different, even if it's scary, just knowing that you're showing up in a safe place. I mean, we're really safe people here.
You're not scary looking at all. I can vouch for
right.
you both.
It's a safe space, and yeah, I just think that it's like, what we're doing currently, people could feel it. I talk to, dozens of women every week who say like, I just feel so stuck. Like nothing's changing. I don't know how to get out of this rut that I'm in. I'm completely burnt out. And so this 4-week series of learning more about how to connect with your body and your breath and doing some subtle movements, you take what resonates with you. If you only learned during the 4-week series how to ground yourself, that will radically change your energy in your life. If you only learned how to practice breath work, if you only learned, how to do a body scan and how to maybe do some tapping, which we'll talk about, I think all of those things are really minor changes that when you add them all up would bring you, a lot of not only physical health, but mental, emotional health. And with all of that, it just opens up more joy and more space in your life for more of that to come in. So I think one of the things Kristen and I kept connecting on is that, like, we want to build a community. We were looking for a community here and it didn't exist, and we were just like, why aren't we doing this? Like, what are we afraid of? Like, why don't we just do it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that kind of answers or starts to answer what my next question was going to be. And what do you hope will happen, like, going forward? What do you see as the future of this here in Northeast PA?
An army of a successful, amazing, connected women that are fearless and brave and just ready to share love and light with the rest of their community. That's what I would like to see.
I really do see the network of women who are relentless on their healing journey, who are just putting one foot in front of the other. And if they fall down, they know that there's going to be a supportive group of women that'll be there to help them along with no judgment. And, healing isn't pretty and healing isn't easy, and it takes a lot of work. And with that, you need to take vacations from healing too. Like, you need to be able to just do the thing, like binge Netflix sometimes. Like, that's okay. You don't have to do all the healing things all the time. And so having a group around you who are, hold you accountable to continue to do the things, but also that are like reminding you that it's okay. Like, you have my permission, not that you need it, but like, you have my permission to give yourself permission to take a break or do the thing. So it's information, but it's also experiential, where we're going to be, gently guiding people to have some fun and to be curious about, what these different modalities are. So hopefully after this 4-week series, one of our goals really is to have like a big party where we can all dance like wild women and just be free. And, so one of the things, if you do come to all 4 classes, is that you will get admission to join us in this big dance party that we're going to be planning, at a future location where we really want to have this big, this wild women community where we can, show up and dance. I mean, part of this too is in that freedom is, that we tend to find our voice. So in moving our body, also some of the things, that we'll be learning is like, embodying different animal spirits. I know this is kind of getting like off topic a little bit, but Kristen and I have done that in our own practice when we work together. It's like, it's really freeing because we repress, especially, I would say, not for everyone, but I said, especially for women, we do tend to repress, things that we want to say, because we are professional and need to say the right things. Maybe it's to, other kids' parents that we want to say something to, or it's the teacher, or it's the coworkers or whatever. So we repress a lot of, our emotions, and that, as we're talking about trauma, like stays in our body. And so how are we going to get that out if we don't use our voice in potentially, using it in other ways. So that's part of what we're going to be doing as well, is like learning how to really embody the spirit that you want to embody, show up as the woman that you want to be.
I think it sounds great. And I think you're right. I mean, as women, I know for me, I'm more like repress probably, but justify. I'm always trying to explain, justify my behavior. Well, here's why I did that, or apologizing, which, I'm trying. At 51, I'm like, I have to be over this shit real soon because I'm 51 and what the hell am I still apologizing for? But I think it is so important what you're saying, and for women to have that voice and to be free. I think this sounds really, honestly, I think everybody needs it. Every woman needs this. And you're right about these past 3 years. I mean, my gosh, I think we are all kind of feeling a little bit tapped out. And yeah,
Mhm.
this sounds like the important stuff that we really need to give a try, and really to treat ourselves to really getting to know our bodies. I love what you said earlier too about going through the day and only like being in our heads, really being disassociated from our bodies. I do believe, I feel like that's me, because I'm always in my head, like almost I live there most of the time. So, I mean, other than running, which running, I kind of have to feel my body, because it's like, oh, geez, wow, I feel out of shape, or wow, that first mile sucked, but I'm feeling something at least. So for me, that is a nice meditative flow, even though it's like, okay, it's exercise, but it's also seeing the outdoors. What can I take a picture of? Who can I run into and say hello to? What kind of ideas will flow through my head? So for me, I have that, which I'm glad about, but I don't have enough of what you're saying. I think it sounds like getting into a real practice with all of this is really important to women, I think.
I agree. And one of the things we forgot to mention, this is one of the things that Trish will be doing, is helping you journal. So you just said like the ideas will flow, and being in your body, you're like, oh yeah, like this is what this means so much to me. Why do I forget about this? So there'll be an opportunity for you to journal so that you don't forget it, like, going forward. And it's about making all these connections. Women, like, because we don't use our voice as much, I feel like not only are we disconnected from ourselves, but we're disconnected from others. We tend to be our own worst critics, so then we project that on others, and we think everyone is criticizing us. And like, I look at women and I'm just like, oh my God, I love you, like you're amazing, and I want to tell you this and this, but like, then people might think I'm a big weirdo, but but like, but I mean, I feel like, when you become embodied, and you create these connections, and you're allowed in this space of vulnerability, and you're sharing, you realize just how amazing other people see you as well. And not that you need other people's validation, but I think it's nice to have that conscious community that we could all just share, and and show up in a place of non-judgment. Nobody expects anybody to be perfect. We all have our days, we all have our moments, we all, it's a journey, it's a circle, it's a cycle. You don't, there's ups and downs. But if you could journal these things, and if you could put them on paper, and when you're feeling really shitty, you said I could curse, then you could go back and look at it and say, okay, I got this. Here's why I feel this way. And maybe like it will help you overcome it a little quicker the next time around.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, I haven't been successful, I will admit. I start things sometimes and don't finish them. And journaling, I've never really got into, but I like what you're saying about going back and reading to remind yourself of something great. One of my friends did something where she writes down something good that happened in the day, like, or made her feel happy or whatever, and puts it into a jar, her happiness jar. And on New
That's
Year's
awesome.
Eve, she reads something, like reads them all. And I'll admit, I started it, and I did it pretty well up until about, I think, the end of March and part of April. And I'm kind of sloughing off a little bit. And I do need to get back to it, because I'm like, how cool would it be on a day when I'm feeling really shitty to reach into this jar and just pull out a paper and open it and say, oh, smile today because the cardinal was at the bird feeder, and I had had a great run in the light rain, and like that stuff that makes me feel something and feel really good. So I love that you're saying that too, and it's great for women to take that away with them. Yeah. As we close, Trish, anything else that you wanted to add? I do want to get the details, and I'll put that, of course, when I promote the podcast. I'll put it in the show notes. I know it's coming up in June. It's 4 weeks, and it will be at Inner Harmony. Will it be held
Yes.
there? Okay.
Mhm.
But anything else you wanted to say in closing, Trish, about whether it's about the workshop or just what you're doing or just holistic practices overall? Anything, any words you wanted to close with?
Yeah, thanks. I think for me, one of the things that's important about this practice also is like rebuilding a connection or a relationship with our bodies. Like for me, especially, I can only speak from my own experience, but I was always critical of my body. And never, when I was younger, it never looked just the right way. My body never looked the right way. So I always talked bad about it. Oh, I'm so fat here and this is too big and this, I want to change this. And so I always talked bad about my body. And then, at some point when I was in college, I got an diagnosed with autoimmune. So then my body wasn't working right. So then it wasn't about how it looked, but then I was down on my body about why isn't it working right and what's going on and what's wrong with me. And so doing this practice in my own healing journey has allowed me to rebuild a relationship with my body where, number one, I trust it now. I understand what its needs are and I have open communication with it, and I know what sensations are trying to tell me and what my needs are. So that builds over doing this practice. And now I love my body. It's not perfect, but thank God it's not perfect because it's mine. And so it does change the way that you feel when you're in your own body, and when you're really connected to it, you learn to have that deeper relationship that we're not really taught, and again, I hate to harp on this, but especially as women, it's like, we have to look a certain way and our bodies have to be a certain way. And, um, and then when we're diagnosed with something, or about, we feel betrayed, or we feel like, what's wrong with me, or what did I do to make this happen? Oh, it's my diet, now I shame myself for what I eat. So there's so much emotional emotions that are wrapped up in our physical bodies and our relationship to them as women. So I think that doing this somatic embodiment practice will lead to a different relationship with our physical body, which has been just a radical change in my life, and how I feel, if like walking throughout my day in my body. So I think that's an important part of like what what potentially could happen in committing to coming to this class.
Okay, thank you. And Kristen, anything else you wanted to add before we close as well?
Um, Not really much. I mean, what she just said was perfect. Your cells are listening. I tell that to people all the time. Negative self-talk. Your cells can hear you. So the more you breathe in acceptance and love, and get rid of that inner critic, the outer critic, if there is one, and just give yourself that love that you desperately need, and your cells are listening. So allow yourself to safely get into your bodies and explore the sensations, and learn some evidence-based tools to help release them, or just go through some motions of movement. At this point, if you're not ready to take the class yet, just do some things that make you feel joy, whatever that is to you, and just talk good things to your body. That's it.
Yeah, no, that sounds wonderful. So this is a 4-week workshop, the somatic embodiment, and it starts June. What is the first date?
8th.
June 8th. Okay. And so what would you tell someone who's interested in coming? What's the best way to find out information, on Facebook, or where would you direct them?
Yep, on Facebook, somatic embodiment.
Okay. Excellent. And they can sign up. There'll be all that information there. They can sign up. Okay. All right. Great.
Yeah, I have it on Grow's page. I've been sharing it a lot there. If anybody wants to email me, gro.wellness@gmail.com, I will be happy to send them a link to it, or Trish's email as well, either one.
Okay, excellent. And I will put that in the show notes and the promotion as well, so that people can find that. But I think it's great. Even if people want to Google it and look up those authors you mentioned, that would be great too. I mean, there's so much to digest what you just said. So much of it is important. And I like to Trisha's point, one of your points you made before about, even if you take one thing, right? You don't have to take it all, right? You could take the one thing. So even if it's just being kinder to ourselves, like the nicer self-talk, let's start there. Or dance at home, move at home, get up and move instead. I mean, I'm finding that I remember reading an article years ago. It was a drummer in gosh, I forget what rock band, but they were in a band, an accident, a bus accident, and he had issues with his health. And he wrote in the article about sitting is the new cancer, and he's trying to like get up and move. And I try to remind myself of that because I work on my laptop, and I definitely know when I've sat for too long, and it's just, I get cranky. Well, I'm cranky to begin with some days, but I get crankier, and I know the movement helps so much. So if we can take just parts, even some of the pieces to get started, I think that would be great, and open ourselves up to connecting with other like-minded people too, so that we can do that great stuff, build the community that you're talking about. It sounds wonderful. So thank you so much, Kristen Martelli and Trish Dickert Nieves. I appreciate both of you. um, and for anyone listening, hello, is there anyone out there? No, it's so funny, I met someone at a mixer the other day who came over to me and said, I listened to your podcast. Well, if I didn't want to like pick her up and wave her around, I was like, oh my God, a listener that I don't know, that's not related to me. Just
That's
kidding.
awesome.
Yeah, no, it's great. Again, there's that validation, even though I know, to Kristen's point, like we don't necessarily need it, but it does feel nice
It
sometimes,
does.
especially to know
Mhm.
that you're being heard, right? Someone is listening and appreciating what you're putting out into the universe. It's a nice feeling.
It is.
So thank you to my listeners, as always. It means so much. Please check out, not just, if you don't check out the workshop, at least look into Inner Harmony Wellness and Grow. And I will have all that information in the notes. Support the people in your community, especially women businesses who are doing these kinds of things that we can all benefit from, and help one another. Because when we shine, we kind of really, as corny as it sounds, we do help others shine as well. And that's a heck of a lot better than a lot of the darkness that's going on. So I thank you for listening. And one thing I like to say also, recently I mentioned to you that because Anchor was bought out by Spotify, I no longer earn that whopping penny when people used to click on my podcast. So check out the show notes for my Buy Me a Coffee link if you want to help support this podcast. And if you don't have $5, or I think you can even make your own monetary donation that's less than that, you don't have to have money to help out. You can share the podcast. So share it on your social media, tell a friend, share this episode with someone you think might enjoy it, and get the word out there. And as I always say, I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart and the bottom of my wine glass.